Okay, so as promised, we're reviewing area now. Area is the measurement of a flat surface, so a 2D shape, and we're seeing how much space that 2D shape takes up. So if I am looking at these two rectangles here, okay, and I'm asking you which one takes up more space, imagine these two images are pieces of cake. Which one has more cake, right? So the squares that cover the shape are used as units to measure that area. So units should cover the shape without having gaps in between, so no spaces in between, and they can't overlap. Just like when we're using a ruler, we're measuring in centimeters, or if we're estimating and you're using your fingers like what you did when we were younger, they can't overlap, they need to touch. Okay, so if I was just going to compare these two shapes, this one is 1, 2, 3, and how I measure this is I count the numbers of squares in each shape. So I'm going to write this has 3 square units, and then I'm going to count the numbers of squares in this shape. Okay, and I have 4 square units. Okay, so if you can do the next two, pause the video. Okay, so now looking at these shapes, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 square units. Do I need to write square units? Absolutely. And we'll get into that in a sec. And this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 square units. Okay, now if you don't have the lines that are there for you, you would just use a ruler or a meter stick, and you can divide those up, okay, by lining those little hash marks up and drawing in. Will you need a ruler for this unit? Absolutely. It's measurement. You are going to need a ruler. Okay, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 square units. Yeesh, printing. Oof. Okay, and draw the lines in here. Okay, flip the ruler, draw the lines in here. So, and then just count them up. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, and then if I'm using my mental math, if there's 14 here, there's 14 here. So I know that there's 28. I'm not going to make you count each of those squares if you can use your mental math. And so I would have 28 square meters there. So there's numerous different types of units that we could be measuring with. I'm going to start with the square centimeter because it is the most common. Now, what I'm saying, I know I already told you that the lines on my grid paper are not exactly 1 centimeter, but we are going to pretend that they are. Okay, so from this corner to this corner, this is going to be 1 centimeter, this is 1 centimeter, this is 1 centimeter, and this is 1 centimeter. So this is a centimeter square. And we can write that in 2 ways. We can write it as centimeter square, or we can write it in our short form, which is what most mathematicians use, or it'd be centimeter with a little 2 up there in the corner, so meaning centimeters squared. Okay, and we'll get into that a little bit more. If I were to write down just 1 centimeter, this is what people are going to assume that you're talking about. So the difference between 1 centimeter and 1 centimeter squared is this is a centimeter squared and this is 1 centimeter. Okay, so if I was going to use my ruler here and measure, this is 3 centimeters. Okay, and this is 2 centimeters, right? And if I count my little squares, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 centimeters squared, or I could write it out, 6 centimeters squared. Okay, now moving down. Now, talking again back to the different measurements we can use millimeters, we can use centimeters, we can use decimeters, we can use meters, we can use kilometers. Okay, so there's different measurements that we can use. And they can also be in squares. So a millimeter square would clearly be smaller than a centimeter square, right? That's not to scale, but it would be. And 10 centimeters is decimeter, so that would be much larger, right? So depending on what you're measuring is what units you're going to be using. Now, my little friend Marco here, he thinks that A has a larger, takes up more space, has a larger area than B. Why is he wrong? Pause the video. Okay, so he is wrong because if you look at 1 square of B, it is far larger than 1 square of A. Okay, so this one would definitely be larger. So it's very important that when you're measuring, you write down the units that you measure in, because it's going to make a big difference, especially when you are measuring to build something. Okay. Now, if I am looking at comparing the different units of measure, so centimeter square, right? Like I have 1 centimeter square here, right? But what if I had a meter square? Now, which one would be bigger? And which one will be smaller? So I'm hoping in your mind you said that a centimeter square would be smaller than a meter square. If you think about a meter stick, 1 meter stick is 100 centimeters. Okay, so clearly a meter square is going to be much, much larger. And if you want to picture in your mind, you can't picture the meter stick, then picture in your mind just shy of your wrist from your wrist with your arm stretched out. That is close to a meter. That's almost a meter. So it would be a square that has the length and the width all the way around being 1 meter. Clearly much larger, right? So it's important that you put those down. And if I'm looking at, so here is like one of our flats, so it's 100, it's a hundreds block. This has how many units in it? Okay, it's got 100. It's got 100 units in there, or 100 of these centimeter cubes. So this would be, if I'm looking at the area of this shape here, this is going to be 100 centimeters squared. And that's how much space that block is taking up. If I'm going to compare that to meters, which I would love to be able to put that on the board right now and show it to you, but there's no way I can do that. I just want you to picture by holding your arms out, like what the difference between 100 centimeters square would be, and now picturing with your arms out how big that 1 meter square would be. Now try to imagine 100 meters squared, like the difference between those blocks. Okay, so Obviously, it's very, very important to know what units to choose when you're measuring. So what I'd like you to do right now, when this video is finished, is I'd like you to go around your room and just find things that you would measure with centimeters squared, maybe with millimeters squared, and with meters squared. And just write them down.